Welcome to howtopam. Let's talk Linux, the channel that promotes professional computing with free open source software, and we're helping FOSS users find the answer. In this video, I would like to show you how you can view your logs in your Linux operating system. There are various ways we can do that, and we'll explore some of them right here, right now. Now, logs on your Linux system are kept in the root section in the var directory under log here. There we go. We have a whole bunch of logs, and some of these are set up so that when the log file gets so large, they compress them. And if you wish to read the log, then the log viewer you have has to uncompress this compressed log and read what is in the compressed file. However, for just a general view of the logs, we can open up and change our directory to root var log. And we run ls to see what's in there. And there are the same files that we see here. This is what we have. Now, it's important to understand that to view these files, we would need root permission. Without root permission, you cannot open the log files. It is the same for even the graphical interface log viewer. You need to run it with root privileges. Now, if we wish to view any of these logs, we can look at, from this level, we can view any of the logs that are available without entering any other directory here. So from this level, we can view through the command line any of these logs here. For instance, here is the messages. So if we want to view that, we could use any of our tools, such as less, to read that. So we could go less. Now remember, we do need root privileges. So I have to run it as sudo less. And because we're in this directory, we can just run messages. And let's have a look. Give it a password. And there are the messages opened by less in the log folder here. Now, of course, because we're opened in less, we can keep going down and read it line by line, or we could go back up. To get out of less, we must press the Q key, and we're out. Now, we could view it from more. We could have sudo more messages, and let's have a look at that. And there again, if you prefer more rather than less as a tool for reading your logs, you can have a look there. With more, you'll have to press the enter key instead of the arrow up or down. And again, if you wish to get out of there, you can press the Q key. And if you want to see again what's in there, press ls, enter that, and there are your files again. Now, of course, even the Linux cat command can view, as long as we have sudo root privileges. And you can see with cat command, it displayed the whole file, which is very big. And if we want to view back, we'd have to scroll it then, because it's gone right from the beginning to the end. However, the end of the log file is the important part if you're searching activity for what recently happened. So we have a tool that we can use, and we could use, under the sudo command, we could use tail messages. And this will allow us to see by default a few lines at the tail of the file. And you can see there, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 lines by default. If you go into the tail config, you could change that, or you can add extra lines here. To get out of the tail command, we'll have to press Control C, and we're out. Now, you could add a number of lines to the command to actually, instead of the default amount, we could say 25. And you can see there we have 25 lines on the tail of the file. There is another one we can use. We can use the grep command to search for a specific keyword. Like if we're looking for errors, files with errors, or we're looking for files that failed, we could grep for a failure or for error in message. And there we have it. Now you can see here that we have an error here. We have an error here. We have an error here. A broke error here. Okay, so we have some errors. And when we grepped for an error in the messages, it brought up any of the errors we had. If we're wondering if there's any recent errors, this is the way to check that out. Now, there are many log files, as you well know, in the var log directory. But some of the common log files you may want to search for issues at time to time is, of course, the messages that we've been using, the authentication log, the kernel logs, the mail server logs if you're using a mail server, qmail log, the Apache log if you're running an Apache web server, the apt-get command log history, the system boot log, which is known as boot log, the MySQL log if you have that, if you have the MySQL database, the login. So there are many logs. They're all listed right here. We've shown you a little bit of ways to use that, but Linux comes with its own command line log viewer as well. Now, many of you might prefer a graphical log viewer, and I have one here that I use, though there are a number of graphical log viewers. If you do a quick search on the internet for Linux log file viewers, you'll find a number of applications. I use a simple one that must be opened with root privileges, so that's sudo and gnome-logs. I believe it's logs. There we go there. We can move this out of the way. This is my gnome-log viewer. And you can have this installed on your system as well, or any other graphical log viewer. Check them out on the internet. Here we have important logs. Here we have all logs. Here we have application logs, system logs, security logs, and hardware logs. The important ones are here. Now, by looking at the important log, I can see that my hard drive here has some bad sector. That's what it's telling me. My hard drive here has some bad sector. Here it's telling me that there's no battery detected. That's because I'm on a desktop. It's telling me here that something did not connect to CSNet. That's minor. Here's my hard drive, uncorrectable sectors. Here is firmware class missing. I'm missing some firmware. This is the offset on my hard drive. Failed. It's not ready. And here is a error for software from the BIOS that would check sensors on the motherboard is not here. So I can see there are some important errors here, but by looking at this, I see there's nothing I am concerned about. So you can install a graphical log viewer on Linux. There's a number of them out there. And remember, they must be opened with root privileges. Otherwise, it will just tell you, it'll open blank and tell you, I can't view it. You don't have privileges. So to do that, if you're going to use a log viewer, it'll be listed in your menu over here, but you will need to run it through the command line and open it with root privileges. Okay, so back to the command line. Most Linux operating systems come with a command line tool for viewing logs, and the most common, if you're running a systemd system, is Journalctl. Journal meaning a journal of your logs, and the control. But again, you need sudo privileges. Sudo journal ctl, and if you just run that, you'll see we have a number listed log entries here. And again, it would be better we could arrow down on that, and you can see the numbers changing here, arrowing down. It would be better if we ran Journalctl with some options. So let's press Control C to exit that, and let's give it an option. Let's say we want to check boot messages. So we run this command with the B option, and here we have the messages that were created on the last boot. Again, we can Control C to get rid of that. We could run with the kernel logs from the previous boot. So kernel logs from boot option, and you can see we have those items listed here. Now remember earlier we used the grep command to find what we were looking for, but if we use the Journalctl as root, then we can look around and it has options that we can use. Of course, with Journalctl, we could ask for help, and the help command shows you many of the options that are available for you. Okay, to get out of that, just press the Q key. Now, if we wanted to check on a systemd unit that might be running, we could ask Journalctl to check the file for user, and let's check LightDM maybe. And you can see it here. It tells me that my LightDM window manager is up and running. Again, Control-C to get out of that. If you wish to monitor in real time, that's what we were doing there. As you noticed, we had the session open, the log session, and it was in real time there. If we tried something different like MySQL, we could go for user MySQL, the MySQL service for the systemd file, and there we are. Now we're monitoring this in real time. Okay, wonderful things you can do with this Journalctl tool that's available on systemd units. And of course, you can find out much more from Journalctl tool, log viewing tool, by looking into its man pages. But an interesting thing is, if we wanted to find out the end of the message log, we used the tail command and just received the last 10 by default, or we put in the 25 and received the last 25 entries in that message log. And then we looked at how to view errors in that message log as well. But with Journalctl, we could actually ask it for time. And in this way, we could say since, and give it quotations and say 30 minutes ago, close quotes, and ask it what are the entries in the last 30 minutes. And here you have a whole slew of entries. And this is line 1 to 25, still going down with the arrow key. Here we have an important issue, again smart related sectors on this here SDA drive. Okay, we're aware of that. We checked that out in other places, and we can go down the list and see what's been entered in the last 30 minutes. Control-C to get out of that. Now you know that the newest entries are displayed at the end of the file. If you would like to have the newest entries displayed at the beginning of the file, remember when we ran Journalctl, it showed all these, but the freshest entries are way down at the end of the file, and this is a huge file. So let's just tell it to go in reverse order. We can tell Journalctl to do in the reverse order, enter that, and now we have the most recent files first here. Control-C, if we wish to have kernel messages, we can just give Journalctl the K-switch. And here we have the kernel messages only. Control-C, if we want to have boot messages or the kernel and the boot messages, we can go like that. Okay, so you can view your logs quite easily in the command line with the tool Journalctl. Another tool we could use would be with root privileges is DMessage. This is another Linux tool that is very good for viewing your log messages. So if we run sudo DMessage, you can see that we have a number of messages here, though it's a huge line, and it looks like there are some important ones in the red here. But we could be a little more refining with this by ask DMessage and pipe it through grep for a search, and let's look for error. Here we have some errors here. Now if we want to look for a little bit more than just error, we could tell grep a little bit more. We have error, and we can separate that with the pipe and put in warn. Again, separate that with the pipe and use failed. And close the quote on that. And we could check for those messages. And you see we have a number of them here. Okay, failed, error, failed. So DMessage, as you can see, is a good tool. And if you really want to, you could run it through less, or queue to quit that, or perhaps you can put it through more to give you a little bit more control over what you're looking for there. So that is, use the queue to quit more. That is a little bit about how you can go about checking out your log files on your Linux operating system. Of course, there is much more to be learned about logs, but it is important that you know how to get the logs that you need to get the information that you are looking for when a problem does arise. So, if you liked that little log tutorial, give us a thumbs up, or subscribe to our YouTube channel, or communicate with us on Twitter at howtopam at Twitter. Remember, howtopam Let's Talk Linux is promoting professional computing with free open source software, and we're helping FOSS users find the answers. So thank you for viewing this tutorial by howtopam Let's Talk Linux.